because they can work out what you're saying even without a microphone. Take a look at this article that Paul Joseph Watson put up on INFOWARS.com today. MIT develops technology to record conversations using inanimate objects. Yes, using only a video of the object and suitable processing algorithm, we can extract these minute vibrations and partially recover sounds that produce them, letting us turn everyday objects into visual microphones. In other words, soundproof rooms, he says, are no longer a defense against eavesdroppers. The video demonstrates that they can record video recording of vibrations of a leaf on a pot plant, and the words from the nursery rhyme, "Mary Had a Little Lamb," could be discerned once the vibrations were translated into sound. They said in another experiment they could get human speech from looking at a video of a bag of potato chips lying on the ground. Of course, that's in there as crisps because Paul Joseph Watson is British. That's what they call potato chips over there. But why would they use this? Well, they've got microphones everywhere. We've already told you that they put microphones in the street lights to listen to you. They're listening to your conversations on your phone, on your computer. They can watch you through the cameras, on your laptops, as we pointed out for a very long time. Perhaps, as I was thinking about this, perhaps this is a way for them to use satellites to listen to people. They have incredibly good visuals on satellites. And of course, if they can get a good visual on you, they can listen to what you're saying. That's the paranoia of the police state. Well, today is the beginning of the Black Hat Conference in Las Vegas. This is where people get together to try to exploit cybersecurity. And of course, the surveillance state, the police state, has a very heavy presence there. The keynote address today was given by the chief security officer of In-Q-Tel. Does that sound familiar? That is the venture capitalist firm of the CIA. And everybody knows about it. It's common knowledge. But here's what he had to say that's interesting. He called for mandatory reporting of vulnerabilities of all types of cyber attacks, not just those with internet-wide implications like Heartbleed. And he wants it for all organizations, small and large. He said the mandatory reporting should follow the U.S. Center for Disease Control, the CDC, model where disease outbreaks above a certain threshold have to be reported to the public. The CDC, he says, doesn't care about the individual patient or health information, but the second the patient poses a risk to society at large, the hospital is legally required to report the illness. Now, that's an interesting comparison for him to make, isn't it? Since we know that the CDC is not really protecting us, but is actually bringing in the Ebola virus, breaking their own protocols on something that we've also seen is patented by the U.S. government here. But he goes on. He has some other things to say about this. He also suggested that the U.S. government should corner the zero-day vulnerability market by buying up all the vulnerabilities from researchers and then making them public. Now, that's an interesting idea. That sounds like they have our best interests at heart, doesn't it? Except that Aaron Swartz, who vigorously campaigned against CISPA, the guy who started Reddit and the guy who died subsequently, he told us, before he died, he told us that the government is funding virtually all of the exploits. They're funding the people to break into everything. So why would this guy, is he naive? Does he not understand what Aaron Swartz understands? And he says this last thing here. Once vulnerability finding became a job and not just a hobby, in other words, it wasn't just these hobbyist hackers out there doing it. He said those who were finding the vulnerabilities stopped sharing them. I mean, is this guy naive, or does he think that we're naive? This is way beyond the fact that we've just got some hobbyist hackers out there. And of course, the ones that are out there, like the ones at the Black Hat Conference itself, it's the CIA venture capital funds and the CIA itself that always goes to these conferences trying to get these guys, if they are in fact working as a hobby, trying to hire them so that they can then create these exploits for the NSA. Are they really going to tell us when they buy these things up, or is he just putting that out there as cover for the fact that the CIA is going to get more aggressive about funding cybersecurity intrusions? Now, today we had some information breaking on the Daily Mail that a Homeland Security inspector has been arrested after he went onto Craigslist and tried to solicit people. He tried to solicit a mother and her daughter to have sex with him. He was busted, of course, not by Homeland Security, but by the FBI. He allegedly tried to have sex with a mother and her underage daughter, says the FBI. Now, the interesting thing about this is that he worked as a behavior detection officer for Homeland Security. That's right. What kind of behavior does he have? And this is the one that sent laughter throughout the studio when we saw this quote here, the TSA made a statement about this today. They said the agency is currently in the process of terminating his employment, but then they said this, which is really, TSA holds its employees to the highest ethical standards and expects all TSA employees to conduct themselves with integrity and professionalism. These alleged crimes are egregious and intolerable, just as the actual crimes that Homeland Security has the TSA do at the airports to women, to children, are intolerable and egregious, as well as a violation of our constitutional rights. So when we look at this, where are we today? There was an interesting story that was up on the Drudge Report yesterday. And before we do that, I want you to take a look at this famous clip that started out in the Treasure Sierra Madre. Badges, we don't need no stinking badges. Take a look at this classic clip.
If you're the police, where are your badges?
Badges? We ain't got no badges. We don't need no badges. I don't have to show you any stinking badges.
Well, just as Pete Martino told us on the report we aired on the Alex Jones radio show a couple of days ago, if you don't stop the corruption, and of course you're always going to have corruption in any organization, if you don't purge it, it becomes systemic. Well, stay with us. Right after the break, we have an interview with a former SEAL, now a best-selling author, Matt Bracken. And his books have foreseen some of the situations that look very much like the near future for us. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Alex Jones here to tell you about how you can help spread liberty worldwide while also enjoying what I have found to be the best tasting 100% organic coffee on the planet. For more than a decade, my favorite coffee has come from the high mountains of southern Mexico, where the Chiapas farmers grow their unique shade-grown Arabica beans. We have now managed to secure these sought-after beans in a highly customized blend. Discover and try a bag of the Patriot Blend 100% organic coffee at InfoWarsLife.com. This coffee gives you a long, smooth pick-me-up for hours without the headaches and heartburn that so many other coffees give me personally. Hands down, this is my favorite coffee, and it's taken us years to secure connections directly to the Chiapas Mexican farmers. Drop by the site today, order a bag or two, and I don't think you're going to be disappointed. Available in original or with our Immune Support Infusion Blend. You will be supporting a free press, all the while enjoying a truly great-tasting cup of my favorite coffee. Available at InfoWarsLife.com. This is Alex Jones for InfoWarsLife.com. The latest in preparedness is now here. An electrically stabilized colloidal silver solution that can be added to both your home cabinet and preparedness pack alike. Concentrated to 30 parts per million in what has been dubbed the survival silver solution. The new InfoWars Life Silver Bullet Colloidal Silver is the answer for you and your family. And it's entirely free of toxic artificial additives that are loaded into many products. The InfoWars Life Silver Bullet Silver is so powerful that it is concentrated into a 2-ounce bottle and is not recommended for extended continual use. This is not a low-grade formula. We are working with one of the top laboratory manufacturers in the United States to bring you the best form of colloidal silver using electrical processes within a base of deionized water for your preparedness storage or your home kitchen. Purchase your bottle of InfoWarsLife.com Silver Bullet Colloidal Silver today and find other amazing supplements at InfoWarsLife.com.
Welcome back. Now, our next guest is actually a fiction writer, although he's had a lot of real-life experiences. Now, it's important to use fiction to help wake up people. A lot of people are not going to connect the dots by looking at the news, by looking at our reports. Sometimes it's best done through a visceral type of experience, through a story. Think of Captain America, Winter Soldier, how that explained Operation Paperclip. Well, our next guest is a former Navy SEAL. He started out as a Russian language major, became a naval officer, and then a Navy SEAL. He was part of the detachment to Beirut, Lebanon in 1983. He was also a special warfare officer. Now, he has skills as a boat builder, welder, charter boat skipper. This is a guy who is going to survive the next crisis, but he sees it coming, and he has some very compelling, very realistic, very entertaining books, a trilogy of books, and I'm going to let him tell you about those books. Our guest, Matt Bracken. Welcome to the program, Matt. I want to go over your different books here. You're going back to 2003. You've got a trilogy, essentially Enemies, Foreign and Domestic. You've got Foreign Enemies and Traitors, book number 3 that came out in 2009. They came out about every 3 years. Where did you get the crazy ideas for these false flags and patsies and government agencies out of control?
Well, I was always interested in political intrigue. I went into the Navy. I thought I'd wind up in intelligence. I was a Russian studies major in college. And actually, I wound up being a Navy frogman, an officer in the SEAL teams. And right about the time that I was in was when SEAL Team 6 was being created out the backyard across the lot of SEAL Team 2. So I was around at the genesis of one of these, super duper secret teams. And it didn't surprise me when the whole thing went corrupt. I sort of was tipped off then, as if I didn't know already, that when you have groups, elite groups of very gung-ho guys, mainly guys, they're chomping at the bit to do all kind of, cutting-edge tactical work. And they're the most proud when they're brought into a secret conspiracy, requiring only the utmost, most loyal officers and men, the ones that can really keep their mouths shut. And I just started studying this phenomenon more and more, and it seemed to almost be an ironclad rule that the more secret an organization, the more it will be abused.
Yes, and when you talk about that, I think that's a real important motivating factor. I think we really ought to focus on that, because I'm seeing that government now at every level is falling under that kind of, do this for us. This is very important. When we go down and talk to the most mundane government agencies and try to get information from their public information officers, they're acting as if they're the CIA, because they're all on some kind of a special, super secret, important mission. That's a motivating factor that they're doing to everybody in government now, isn't it?
They've clearly, since I wrote the book in 2003, they've clearly blurred the line from a foreign war or a domestic war. I think that right now the White House and the Department of Homeland Security, well, they, by their own words, they're much more concerned about, right-wing, mainly white extremists than they are about Al-Qaeda or ISIS or Hamas or Hezbollah. But the main thing is to understand is that whereas we were formally warned by Eisenhower and others to beware of the military-industrial complex, now what we have is a military intelligence and law enforcement complex, which is big bucks, private prisons, SWAT teams with multi-million-dollar budgets that need to be used to justify their budget. I mean, we're sending snipers to get the cat out of the tree these days.
Absolutely. Now, I haven't read your books, but it got my attention when I saw a book review from John Ross. His book, a lot of people might know, Unintended Consequences, is one I did read about 20 years or so ago. As a matter of fact, I just sold a hard copy cover for a couple $100 used, because it's now rare. You can get it in paperback. But the kind of reviews that I'm seeing hundreds of reviews, people saying that it's really well-written page turner, that it's very realistic, that the villains are interesting. They're not just cardboard cutout characters. But the most interesting thing, I think, and what our readers would be interested in, is the fact that going back to 2003, you've got a scenario here that involves false flags, patsies, engineered crises, other opportunities to expand government. And it starts out with a false flag attack around an NFL stadium. I mean, that's the kind of thing that we see them prepping for right now. We even see that in the recent Batman movie.
Yeah, that's the first book. It starts on the first page with a false flag sniper attack into a stadium where 3 magazines, 90 rounds precipitates a panic stampede with people being pushed off the upper decks and, stampeded in the tunnels, leading to, as a plot device, basically to speed up years and years of slow politics, leading to a ban on all semi-automatic rifles. The clique of people that actually pull the operation, they understand that nobody's going to turn their rifles in, but it will give them justification to go house to house, which will require a budget like the 82nd Airborne and armament. So it's a way of building an empire in this military intelligence law enforcement complex we now have in this country.
Now, one of the things that John Ross said, he says it's a challenge for any writer to come up with a plot that is at once plausible enough to have the reader accept it, but also unlikely enough that it hasn't actually happened yet in real life. But we've seen it come very close to that. And as we've reported on many of these highly publicized crises and shootings, that we believe that it's come very close to that happening. Now, in this first book, you're talking about enemies, foreign and domestic. In the second one, you're talking about a border collapse and Atslin. Talk about that scenario for us.
Yeah, I was living out in San Diego. That's this book, Domestic Enemies. I was living out in San Diego during the early 2000s.